So my name is Philip Heaton. I am the commercial success manager for YourSix. What I do is pretty much anything that allows our customers and our integrators and partners to go to market easier, right? That can be everything from collateral, training, um, you know, any type of things you see on our website from resources, videos, and things like that. And really, what I want to do here in this webinar is talk about security as it being more proactive than just reactive, right? So the focus not being strictly on reacting to post-event type of video and things like that, and looking back at a crime or an event that's already taken place, and trying to think more of a proactive approach. And how can I know in real time as things happen? How can I even be proactive in the case of certain things and deterring crimes, deterring things like rolling trucks, from a proactive health monitoring of the device and things like that. So we'll go through a little bit of a PowerPoint and then we will look at an actual demo. So um, first thing I'm going to do, the first slide you're going to see after this is really the summary slide. If you're going to screenshot something, it's that next slide. We'll talk briefly about that. It's a lot of the things I'm going to cover in this. I'm going to give you all a brief, who is YourSix and kind of about the YourSix solution. Then we'll talk about the proactive piece and thinking more away from the just being reactive. We'll also talk a little bit about some resources around the Academy, the YourSix Academy, YourSix GitHub. Talk about key takeaways, and I'll also put in there a little bit of information on our access control, which we recently came out with earlier this year. But if you get nothing else, I always like to, I know, webinars can be long and people tend to pay a lot of attention early on. This is your slide. If you want to take a screenshot of something, this is it. These are kind of the 6 important things we will cover, as well as down the right side is my contact information, as well as 4 main resources that we will talk about. These links I have already put into the chat. In the chat as well, please feel free to drop any questions, Q&A, or comments, and I will try to get to those before the demo and then at the very end. But those links are there, as well as my contact information. So big 6 things we're going to talk about is who we are, which is we are the cloud system for physical security that takes access communications devices direct to cloud. That means no bridge, no appliance. With that, we do utilize advanced analytics from access. And when you tie those into things like an alarm zone, you can control things like when I get notifications, when I don't. You're really focused on reducing the noise that you can get from the system, right? So I want to reduce false alarms. I only want to know about things that are important when they are important. Additionally, is automated and live audio talk down. So audio needs to be a very, very big piece of your physical security solution. That can be live talk downs, that can be audio talk downs from a pre-recorded standpoint. So person found in an area after hours, you don't even need a human intervention. It automatically talks down. Proactive system health monitoring, which means things like CPU, RAM overutilization, storage disruptions, any of those health type of things, but some of those being very proactive, is knowing about these things before they take place, which really allows you to think more, I wanted to keep things from happening. I want to, fix something before I have to roll a truck. I need to know there's an issue before it becomes something that's escalated that actually causes me to lose footage or may even lose a device completely, right? So think proactively, reduce the time to fix things, the time that things are down, and the cost of rolling out fixes for those devices. The system as a whole, which you'll see as we talk about a lot of this, the system is in its entirety an ability to give real-time events and real-time alerts, right? Obviously, you want to have the ability to record footage and know about things that take place and reactively look back at those. But it's more important really to figure out how you actually get that information, right? And in the end, it is an events engine, right? Is I want to notify you of an event and notify you and when it still matters, right? And then lastly, you'll see integrated access control and our partner training that's available to you. So again, this is the slide. Screenshot this, use this with plus the links that are in the chat, and you'll be off to a really good start. Let's talk a little bit to get started about the solution itself and what we are as a whole from who is YourSix, what is YourSix. We are a physical security provider that is 100% cloud in the sense that we do not try to put any type of appliance or server or anything like that in place. You take a device, give it an internet and power connection, and you can manage and view that device and those devices, those endpoint devices from the cloud. We do work exclusively with Axis Communications, which we see if you go look at the Axis product line, number one, number two in the market from a device capability standpoint, number of devices out there in the market over the last 15 years. Axis is the cream of the crop when it comes to a camera and physical security device manufacturer. And so that's why we work with them exclusively. We do have an office just down the street from the Axis headquarters in Lund, Sweden. But we also have our US headquarters, which is in St. Paul, Minnesota. We are a fully managed service, and that's important because we view that when you add a device to our platform, it's really our responsibility to manage that device from a firmware perspective, patching, notifying you of things such as health alerts on that device. And so we really take that on as it's our responsibility to make sure your device is secure and working properly. We do have our SOC 2 attestation, which is around cybersecurity and really what protocols we have in place around that. Really what this means to you is the fact that we have been audited heavily and from a cybersecurity standpoint, and that allows us to go into pretty much any type of environment from a security standpoint, right? We have those precautions and standards in place to make sure that we meet those standards. Part of that is if you are a partner with us, we do have our SOC 2 audit, which is available for people to use to whether it's to a customer, an RFP, just you as an integrator vetting the solution. So it is something that is in place for those partners that work with us. All right, so a little bit about everything that is part of the solution itself. So obviously, physical security can mean a lot of different things, but really there are 6 core pillars that we will talk about. Obviously, there's the video piece and what you think of the video surveillance piece. So cameras, video door stations, those type of actual video surveillance devices, which you can look at live, you can view recorded footage, you can receive notifications from analytics, things like that from those devices. But outside of that, there's a lot of other things, right? There is the access control piece, which we'll talk about in a little bit, which really rounds out kind of the core piece of the solution. Sensors as well, radar, PIR sensors. We utilize the access analytics, which we'll talk more about shortly. But really, those are edge analytics running on the devices themselves that really allow the devices to be a smart sensor. And then rounding that out with professional monitoring and IP audio and intercoms. I will touch pretty heavily on the professional monitoring piece because it really is, thinking through being proactive and try to deter crimes that are taking place or just events that take place. Professional monitoring is a big piece. It's important to note we empower professional monitoring, right? So we work with some of the top professional monitoring central station softwares out there, which you'll see here in a few minutes. And with those, we're able to empower our customers with the video monitoring and professional monitoring side of security. I love this slide. This slide really shows where we are. It touts us as kind of brand recognition is an important thing, but we have some really, really big customers that we've worked with. Everything from Fortune 500 companies, a couple of professional sports teams. But all of these, the section down here in the bottom, where you see things like private aviation, furniture, national car rental companies, we have top 5 customers in all of these. So, a top 5 furniture company manufacturer in the US, top 5 oil and gas company. We have very, very large customers in each one of these types of environments. The reason that's important is because what I really want you to understand is we can stretch across multiple different verticals, industries. We have customers everywhere from 2 or 3 cameras at a single site with a speaker, all the way up to 1,500 devices at a single site. And so really think about it this way: extreme flexibility from the size of the opportunity, size, whether that's amount of locations, amount of endpoint devices, but also pretty much any type of vertical you need or that you work in. All right. Now, let's talk a little bit about cloud and kind of, are your customers adopting cloud? What I want to really get across here, there's 2 things in this. The first one here, 92% of security leaders agree that the future of physical security is cloud-based. Okay, 92%. That means people looking at this, whether they are currently adopting it or not, do realize that the future is down this road. And we really are there now, right? That's not necessarily the future. We see that as right now. All of our customers do. Everybody we're working with, our partners, our integrators. If you're looking at the security market today, cloud-based solutions are the current trend, and they are going to be the future. There's no doubt. Additionally, what that really means and why, obviously there's the why behind that 92% is partially things like reduced IT staffing, the ability to ease of management across multiple solutions. But the very last one there, organizations reduced operating costs by 32% over 3 years. Okay. That means moving away from on-premise and moving more towards a cloud-based solution, total cost of ownership will be reduced. Right. That's everything, like I said, from the actual IT staffing, the amount of training, the ease of turning over employees. You really don't need to train. It's much easier to utilize these cloud solutions. But there's also things like heating, cooling, HVAC systems, and just simply fix and replacing all of that hardware for the on-premise solution. So really, really important to understand that the total cost of ownership will be less with a cloud solution. All right. Now, before we jump in and kind of look at the architecture and start thinking through that proactive approach and not reactive, there are a lot of other systems out there, right? I want to be very clear that we're not all the same. Not all cloud solutions are the same. We've even at times called it Cloud 2.0 because how many people kind of muddied the water with the word cloud and its usage. The way we see cloud and the way we go to market is that the foundation of our platform was built for cloud. We weren't an on-premise solution that slowly band-aided the solution to make it more cloud, but at the foundation, it's still an on-premise old code and things like that. No, we are 100% cloud from the ground up. We require no on-site appliance or cloud connectivity type of devices, so bridges, things like that. You have endpoint devices, you give it power, you give it internet, and you can connect it to the cloud, reducing that single point of failure in the solution. Things like storage, direct to cloud, right? We're not going to buffer locally, have footage possibly lost. No, you send that multiple streams out that can go to the cloud, that can go to the SD card. That is very, very important that we are immediately uploaded to the cloud type of provider. And then lastly is think proactive on your health monitoring and realize that we take responsibility as the provider of the solution. We take responsibility for the firmware of the devices, the patching of the solution, making sure it's updated so that your customers, you as the customer, that everybody is fully understanding, is the solution working? Is it up to date? Is it secure? And with us, you have that trust and that confidence in the solution itself. A little bit about the architecture. Very, very simple, as I've said before. Give it power, give it internet. That could be Cradlepoint. That could be a local switch on the local area network, PoE switch. But really what we're talking about here is this diagram across the top here at the left, across the top. From the left, you'll see things such as radar, speakers, cameras, access control, door controllers. Give it power, give it internet. It will connect to the cloud, to the YourSix OS solution. And that can be managed and viewed from anywhere, from any device. So we do have our browser version, which is what our browser application, which you'll see me demo shortly. But we do have an iOS and Android mobile apps as well. From a storage perspective on this, we do allow for cloud storage and as well as local storage in the SD card, for example. You kind of pick and choose what you want to do there from a storage perspective. A lot of our customers do things like record continuously to the SD card and then record motion to the cloud. This type of solution does allow for an infinite, basically, scale. If I have multiple sites, I don't need a bunch of hardware and appliances and servers, anything like that at these sites. I can simply, if I have those endpoint devices, I just need to put a subscription license on those devices, and then it can be managed, right? So think infinite number of devices at a site, infinite number of sites, infinite number of users for the platform. Really just, it's software. That's the beauty of it, right? Is the ability to scale really, really simply. All right. Now all of this managed, right? Like I said before, we're going to manage the firmware, we're going to manage the patching, but as far as users of the platform, controlling who sees what type of notifications, all of that, all from a single point. There's no VPN into the solution or anything like that. It's just easy, remote, no thick client, nothing like that. So very, very easy to manage everything. All right, so let's talk a little bit about kind of moving towards reactive and or moving away from that reactive approach and viewing footage of things that have already happened and start thinking more towards how do I deter things that currently are taking place? How am I immediately in the know, and kind of some of the proactive things that we can do? First off, an important piece of it is the analytics. So we do utilize the analytics that run on the camera or on the endpoint device themselves. So these are access communications analytics. Really allows the camera themselves to turn into a smart sensor by only pushing, things like storage. If you only want to record when a person's detected or only when motion, things like that, it does allow for reduced bandwidth. But more than anything, it allows for the notification to tell you something, right? You can think about, you'll see a couple of them. I won't go into the actual access names of them, but I can be notified of motion. The newer devices that are more of the deep learning type of devices do have object detection. So I only want to be notified of a person. I only want to be notified of a vehicle. You can even do cross line detection or fence detection, things like that, where you have a line somewhere and I only get notified when something crosses that line. And then tampering type of events. Somebody hit the camera, somebody moved the camera, even somebody, spray painted over that. These are all edge-based analytics that then can send to somebody to notify them of that, right? So our platform does send out notifications based on a schedule or an alert state, which you'll see here in a few minutes when we talk about kind of trying to remove the alarm panel and trying to, only be notified at certain times to kind of reduce the noise. So that goes to either a push notification to an actual individual. Those notifications that can be a mobile push notification, that can be via email, webhooks, or to the actual alarm monitoring center as well. All right. Now, talking a little bit about the alarm monitoring and the video monitoring piece of it. So we do work with MX, Bold, and SBN. These are the actual softwares that central stations utilize. Okay, so you can think about there are hundreds of central stations out there, and we work with the softwares that they have, right? So it's not necessarily a matter of, do you work with this one? Do you work with that one? Do you work with this one? It's more of a focus on the softwares that these companies utilize, and then they can work with us to actually receive the notifications. This, basically the way this will set up is camera detects a person, which you can see kind of an image here of two individuals climbing over a fence, detects that fires off a notification, which is then received by the alarm monitoring center, and then they can intervene. Every intervention from a central monitoring station kind of has a different action plan, which is something you work with them to set up. That could be anything from do a live talk down, right? So the actual agent on the other end could say, hey, you need to leave the premises, you're here after hours, or law enforcement will be deployed. You also can do automated talk downs. And then they additionally, beyond just viewing the incident, they typically can view live footage. of what's currently going on and that recorded footage side by side to see, what's the current impact of what's going on, right? We see this person, we did a live talk down, did they leave the premises? And what we're talking about typically is sub 10 seconds to response here, right? So if I see someone maybe in a parking lot after hours or trying to break in the back door of an area, that response can be quick enough to really truly deter the crime. The other thing that does happen is with some of these live talk downs, you can, even put in a light or with the speaker. It does grab the individual's attention, which can allow you to have a little bit more view of the individual's face for post event. Whether that's law enforcement, but actually get a good facial recognition of the person, doing the crime or whatever type of various event is taking place. Now, this is built on the idea of when should alarms take place and when shouldn't they, right? So it's obviously very important, as we've talked about on a couple of these slides, is kind of reducing the noise. And what I mean by that is if I get notified every time there's motion, even when it's in the middle of the day, when there's supposed to be individuals in an area, you become kind of numb to that noise, right? So what's important is to receive the notifications that are important when they are important. One of the things you can utilize with this is strictly a schedule. You could say, I only want to receive notifications at a given time. You could also say, I only want to receive certain kinds of notifications, right? Only when a person is detected or only when a device goes offline. But you additionally can use device groups, which is basically like an alarm zone, a customizable group here. So in this chart you see here, bottom left corner, you see a building kind of cut up into different zones. And you can see the little red circles around these couple of devices kind of indicate, hey, these zones are armed. The green would be something that's unarmed. And what that does is say, okay, this area, these cameras are running, these cameras are picking up motion, but I expect someone to be there. So I'm going to set that to a disarmed state, or it's going to be in a scheduled state so that it won't send the notifications downstream to whether it's an individual or to an actual alarm monitoring center. Same thing with the red ones, right? Oh, this area, there shouldn't be anybody in it. It's after hours. It's, whatever it may be, there shouldn't be movement. There shouldn't be individual tech. There shouldn't be vehicles. If there are, I need to make sure I know about that. And then those would be in an armed state and firing off those notifications. And again, point being is to really reduce the noise. Now, the control of these zones can be done through either a peripheral or manually via the browser or mobile application, which you'll see here in a few minutes. I'll actually show it to you from an actual browser. But for example, I could sit here and say, hey, I need to arm this. And as I leave the building, I could arm it from my phone before I enter back into the building. I could disarm it. All right. And so, really that in action and how those kind of device groups work is, let's say you had a cleaning crew. Normally it's just set to a schedule. They come at different times. They get there. You can disarm that from anywhere, right? I could disarm that from sitting on the beach. I know my cleaning crew, they call me, or if you have an individual with inside that group that you trust, they give them the ability to disarm. And I can disarm that. They can go in, no notifications are sent. I reduce that noise, right? And then when they leave, I set it back to schedule or to an armed state so that if, when there's not supposed to be anybody there, it's back in that armed state. If an owner works late or you have employees working late, keep it in a disarmed state. And then as they leave, you can arm it. This also does allow things where if you have different portions of an office versus like a warehouse space or something like that, you could actually set it to, hey, this zone, I expect people to be in it 24/7. We work 3 shifts. This is going to be in a complete disarmed state. And I only want to receive notifications if something like goes offline. This office space, I don't want to receive notifications from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., but 5 p.m. at night till 8 a.m. the next morning, I need notifications being sent to my video monitoring or central station. And so when you take these components together, right? So we've talked about the analytics, which are triggering the actual event. You pair that with the device group, which would decide should it be sent or should it not be sent. And then with the video monitoring in the central station, you have this really nice, smooth ability to reduce the noise of those notifications, hear what you want to hear, but it allows you to really respond to things in real time. I've talked about these going to a central station, but these can go just to any user. Like I said, right? A push mobile notification. I could sit here and say it's in an armed state. I get notified. I pull it up on my phone. I talk down to try to deter something that's currently taking place. All right. So with that kind of comes that audio piece and how important this is. I would say today, somewhere in the range of 25%, we'll say 20% of our devices on the platform today are some sort of audio capabilities, right? And so, that needs to be a vitally important piece of your, security solution. Now, a couple different things you can do here. Like I talked about, I'll show you this in the demo, but you get that detection from those analytics. They can send into a notification. You could respond. I could be, again, sitting on the beach. I get notified there's a person in my office after hours, pull it up on my phone, view that person, decide whether they should or shouldn't be there. I could do a live talk down telling them to leave. I could disarm the system if it's supposed to be somebody who is there but just didn't disarm the system. I could call law enforcement. It really allows me to react in real time. Now, additionally, you can have automated messages set up as well. These would be just, hey, person detected. Every time there's a person detected after hours, set this message. If they're in a parking lot or an area that's supposed to be, that would be trespassing, play this message. And again, back to that idea of it kind of directs the suspect or the individual's attention towards the source, the audio source, or the video, the light source even, and you kind of grab that facial imagery of that individual. All right. Obviously, this is another whole piece of the solution when it comes to working with the central stations. Most of our central stations do support the audio side of this. So it's very, very important to make sure that you have this there to be a ability to react in real time and try to deter things that take place. It's also important, obviously, the world we live in today. This does allow you to have emergency warnings. Obviously, there are all kinds of different bad actors out there, and not just trying to deter that actor, but also to play down or discuss openly across a wide area that an emergency is taking place, how to respond to it, where to go, things like that. All right. Now let's talk about proactive health monitoring. This is something we have just recently released, and we really see ourselves as something very different than the market is gone with today. Most on-premise solutions, something breaks, you may not even know it was broken. In a lot of cases, we've seen a lot of people, crime takes place. They sit back and go, uh-oh, there was a crime. Let me go look at the video. Oops, that camera hasn't been working. How long has it been working? We don't know. Could have been 6 months, could have been a month, could have been 5 minutes before it took place. You do have some providers out there that are strictly doing, is the device online? Is the device offline? Which is a step up, but it's still reactive to the sense of the camera goes offline. It's too late at that point, right? I've got to probably put somebody in that area. I have to send somebody, I have to roll a truck. And we really want to get people more thinking towards that proactive approach is the camera actually operating efficiently and properly? Things like, is it overutilizing its RAM? Is the CPU usage overutilized? And so really trying to get towards a proactive view of the device health. Now, the way this works is basically we have information and we set thresholds on these devices. Those really take place around things like CPU utilization, RAM utilization, temperature warnings, storage. But there's also things like network packet loss, so the failure for the packet to reach its destination. There's a storage disruption. We even utilize the axis image health. So if you have a device that's not properly portraying its image that it's actually taking, as well as things like if there's foggy, the lens maybe gets smudged up, somebody spray paints over the lens, these type of tampering things. These all really allow for, I get notified of these issues before an event takes place that could cause the device not to pick up something, right? And so we set these thresholds or these events that then again fire off to whether that is to an actual user of the system, or it could go into an integrator ticketing system, which is really important, right? And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute as to how we recommend utilizing that. But the goal here is to see which devices are not acting properly, right? And try to get in front of it. Let's say I have a device that's got high CPU or high RAM. Maybe I'm running too many analytics on it, right? We've seen this, quite frequently where we'll go look and they're running video motion detection and access object analytics and fence guard and maybe something else. So there are things that can cause those things to spike. And some of those analytics may not even be working towards anything or actually, notifying anything or pushing storage or anything. So they're just running. So being able to look at a device, proactively seeing what's wrong with it, and then try to get ahead of those truck rolls and the expense that comes with that from rolling a technician out to a site. Now, it's really important that these notifications, obviously, depending on the way you work as a partner or a customer and an integrator, these typically would go to something like a integrator, and they can receive those notifications to proactively get ahead of this. And one of the things we have created is our GitHub, which is, you can see the link there. It was on the second or third tab. It's also in the chat. And what this is this is a place where we're going to put some code base, and it's free. It's examples on how we would recommend doing things and around building just general intelligence for the solution. But in this example, we do have some information there around creating basically a repository or kind of like a dashboard to actually visualize the health of the data that's actually coming in. So what that looks like is event takes place, let's say CPU or RAM overutilization, via our webhooks. That is sent. It is sent with basically a payload that's parsed and indexed into a Postgres database. And then it can be visualized into like a JavaScript application, which you can just see an example of over here, where it's simply saying, hey, total number of devices tracked 2, 1 unhealthy device, 1 offline device. And this allows you to just really get hey, this is, as an integrator, this is the health of the solution. And so we will continue to build out more and more information kind of like this as code examples in our GitHub. But I highly recommend you utilize that. And there's the link right there. But again, it's also in the chat. All right. So just to summarize here, proactive health monitoring, thinking ahead of these events that take place that could cause a device to go down, or you could realize that something happened, I need to review footage, but oh yeah, the camera has not been working properly. And I go back and look, oh, I had so many RAM and CPU overutilization, the temperature was high on it, and lo and behold, something didn't work, right? Being proactive and getting that information to you and allowing you to react to those issues before the actual devices lose their sensor capabilities. All right, so let's talk a little bit about access control. This is something that we have rolled out a couple of months ago. It's been something we have kind of had in the hopper, teasing and having some people beta test this over the last couple of months and quarters. But this really does round out that single pane of glass for access control. All right. We do work with the access door controllers. So they basically have 2 models, really, the A16 and the A10, or sorry, the A16 and the A12s, that we do work with. Those are a dual barrier and a single barrier or door controllers that you do have at the door. And so those, from a controller standpoint, is what we work with. From a reader standpoint, kind of bring your own reader as long as it meets the WeGAN or OSDP v2. We do recommend OSDP, but have the reader, as if it's a reader that kind of works with the A16, A12s, then it will be pulled into our solution. And then from a credential standpoint, you've got cards, fobs, and we are supporting native Bluetooth on iOS. We'll expand our access control. We do have things such as future Android use, more features coming into the mobile application itself, and then maybe some expansion into supporting a couple more door controllers from Axis. So this is just, more than anything, want to make sure everybody's aware that this is part of the solution now. It's not just video and sensors and things like that. We do have a full access control part of the solution now, and it is unified into that single pane of glass. You'll see here in a minute when I do give a demo, that is part of the demo, and you'll see I can alarm on a door. I can control the live features of the door, things like that. So let's jump in. I'm going to show you a little bit about the actual visuals of the solution. If you have any questions, please go ahead, drop them into the chat, and I will get to those in just a minute. All right, assuming everybody can still see my screen. This is the platform. This is platform.yoursix.com. And what you see here is the matrix. This is the first page when you get into the platform. This is where you land. This is really, it's kind of like a cockpit, right? This is where you're going to interact with all of your devices. And what you'll see here, I've got obviously a created view with different devices on here, as well as some access control ones. So basics. Really quick, there's 3 main tabs. You'll see them across the top here. Matrix, forensics, configuration. Talk briefly about each one. We'll start with the matrix right here. So this is I've come in here. I've got a screen. I created this view. And down the right side of the screen here, you'll see other views that I have created. You've got devices down through here and sites. So if I expand one of these sites, for example, you'll just see different cameras down through here that I can select any of these. If I grab one, for example, it's just going to populate on the screen. Very, very simple, right? You can create whatever type of view you want. Once you get your view, you save it, and that's your view every time you come into the platform. You can pull those across multiple sites. If I want the front door of every location that I have, I want the maybe the safe area or something like that in every location, I can have one view with all of that in it. I don't have to bounce between sites. Now, every device has different capabilities. So as you see here, this device right up here in the middle is actually a PTZ device. This is in Minnesota. I'm in Greenville, South Carolina. It's summertime. I probably have all 3 of my kids right now somehow watching YouTube or playing video games or playing on their Switch or something. I've got my wife working in another room, and you can see how quick my response is here on these PTZ devices, typically sub 1 second from a latency standpoint. If you look at this device across the top of it, you'll see a couple different things here. We do have the ability, if there was a speaker connected to it, we have IO if I wanted to trigger a light or a gate or something like that. I can do PTZ presets, which I always like to show this one because it's kind of astonishing, the capabilities of this device. So you see here, family owned and operated, that Midas sign right there. If I zoom out, let's see just how far away this is. You can see how quickly that just disappears into the middle of nowhere of that sign right there. So that comes back to the point of low latency, but more than anything, that is an amazing device from Axis, right? So that's why we work with these types of cameras. Additionally, you'll do see other things down through here. You'll see a radar down below that device. We've got a couple thermal devices, fisheye right here. I will actually pull this one up and show you this one because this is great. I can wide area of view, but I can actually take this into a dewarp state and control it kind of similar to how I do control a PTZ device. So we do support the fisheye dewarping as well. I also want to show you a couple different things from a audio perspective, which I'll show you in just a minute. But first, I'm going to talk about access control. So here are the doors that you can see right here. These are just barriers. Every door is a barrier, but there's a whole lot more than just doors out there. Gates, turnstiles, anything like that. Anything you want to restrict access to could be considered a barrier. And so with this, you'll see I just pull these in just like a camera on here, just a little widget. This one right here, this front door one, is actually located right beside me. I can access that door, which basically just temporarily opens the access to it. I think this one's set to 5 seconds. This would allow someone at a reception desk or somewhere else, just anywhere, to grant access to a door, to unlock it. I can unlock the door itself. So that's changing the state of the door. So changed it from a locked state to an unlocked state. And then I also from here will get live notifications of events that take place. So I can, for instance, if I do that right there, I just forced the door open. So I can get notifications that of something like forced open or open too long, door was held open too long, and those will visualize straight on the matrix here. Additionally, along the bottom of the screen, you do see a timeline. You've got your cloud recording, which is blue, your SD card, which is the green line down there, and these are little indicators along the top of those. I will show you an example. Let's see if I've got a good camera up here. I'll show you a blank one first. So if I jump in looking at this camera right here, well, let's see. Let me get you a good one that has, let's see what this one is right here, this Privacy Shield one. This one you'll see a lot of different things. We're doing some work in our office, but you'll see down here these little indicators. These indicate that some type of something was detected, motion, a person, something like that. And so if I just click back, it's just going to show me that video, and it's just picking up that person right up there that's working on the window. Now, I can export that footage, for example. So I've got this person, I want to, let's say they're breaking in. I can just hit this little export button down here. It's going to drop this little section on my timeline. And with that, I can export that video. We do support up to 90 days of footage. We'll save it for 90 days in our cloud. So even if you agree to, hey, I only want to record for 7 days cloud storage, we'll still save your exports for 90 days. And so that will appear right down there. It appears once I create that export, if I just hit continue, that is going to appear under the forensic section of our system. Now, additionally, devices beyond, we've talked a little bit about, let's see if I can find one on here that's got a good, this one right here did have it. Oh, that's why I'm not in live. There we go. All right, jump back into live. Devices do have the ability to have a speaker. This device right here, the speaker is offline, but you can see right there is a little speaker icon. That would allow me to do that live talk now from my computer right here. I could do that from my mobile app as well. If I want to sit here and say, I want to say, hey, person in that area, you're in an unauthorized area, you need to leave, or I'm calling the police. That right there is where you would do that. All right. Additionally, I do want to show you the control of the actual, the control of the device groups. And so I'm going to pull this up right here. This is another instance that I've got. This one is I'm logged in actually as an end user. And what you'll see here is, same thing. This is your matrix. Could add different devices, things like that. But in the upper right corner, very upper right corner, right beside my name up there that you see, you will see a little lock icon. That icon allows me to arm and disarm the different groups in the system. So for example, I could disarm all the device groups. I could disarm different groups. Let's say I want to disarm just the front office while leaving the warehouse or parking lot or something like that. I can make all those changes right here. I can set it to schedule, which means it's going to follow the schedule. I can set it to a disarm state, which means no notifications will be sent. Or I could set it to an arm state, which means notifications are going to be sent. Now, this is just important because this is really where you're going to control reducing the noise and only hearing those notifications that you want to hear, as well as only sending notifications to central stations that matter and when they matter, right? All right, so with that, I'm going to jump back over to the original canvas I was on right here. I want to show you a couple things in the forensics section. We have a lot of different ways to search for events as part of analytics and triggering and those things that you do get from the platform. One of those things is you could just search for events. I want to search for when motion was detected. I want to search for when a device went offline, things like that. But we do have our object analytics, which is really important. This is the ability to look for the appearance of a device. And so I come in here, grab a couple of devices. I'm going to say in the last 7 days, I want to search for vehicles, and I'm going to actually say I want to search for just red vehicles. So we'll search across this, criteria here of these cameras, and I'm going to get video of different devices. If I do click on one of these videos, it will allow me to go into the matrix. It's going to jump me straight to that video, and it's going to show me that event actually taking place. So we should see here in just a second. Did he pass by already? Where is he? Well, that one didn't work. We'll try another one. I wonder if that camera is off a little bit. We'll try this one. Open in matrix, and we should see the truck right there go across the top. So looks like I've got a camera that probably, if I was using proactive health monitoring, would tell me that the RAM or CPU overutilization is taking place, which is skewing the time or the actual analytics are failing on that device. And so, but as you can see here in this one, vehicle comes across, there it is. I was able to search for that red vehicle. I can also search for similar vehicles if I want that same type of metadata, the criteria of that device. This device also important here, you can see on the timeline, the recordings down here. The blue line is just a smaller set. The green line is also kind of a smaller set, and it's choppy. This means we're only recording based on certain criteria. So for example, here I'm only recording when AOA, which is Access Object Analytics, which is their cutting edge AI from an analytics perspective. So we're only recording when these things are triggered, right? So allows me to reduce the bandwidth, maximize storage, things like that. But that is a good indicator of how that works right there. Now, not going to jump in too much into the whole configuration side. It is important. Well, actually, real quick on forensics, exports. I showed you earlier how to create an export. This is going to appear on the export section of this page right here under forensics. You're going to see exports, and you'll see a list of exports. Again, we will save these for 90 days. You can create up to one export can have up to 8 devices for a total of 24 hours. If you need more than that, you just create more than one export. We also do have our validator tool. This is a way for us to validate the authenticity of a device, the actual export from a device. This is something that doesn't have to have a login, nothing like that. This is something that in let's say a legal sense can be used to validate a video to make sure it hasn't been tampered with or changed in any way. So if something like this got in the hands, let's say a video got in the hands of lawyers, police, courts, something like that, and they needed to validate the event that the actual footage had not been altered, changed. This is where they do it. They simply come in here, you select a file, and then just simply hit validate export, and it will validate it against the original when it left our system. So any change whatsoever, it will flag it as failed and tampered with. All right. Now, jumping in and looking lastly at the configuration section, because I want to give a couple minutes left to go over a couple of the additional resources that are here. Within the system under configuration, you will see a lot of different things. You've got the actual setup of the devices, the notifications, access control. I want to talk about notifications, as that's one that we talked a lot about during the actual presentation. This is a very simple setup. Hey, I go through and I say, when do I want to receive notifications? This is basically the schedule that's going to be used. And you can use the alarm zones or device groups to control whether these are being sent or not. But setting up the actual custom schedule, I can come in here and say, hey, I want to send notifications during just a set amount of time, something like this right here. If it's a health notification, such as high CPU or RAM utilization or device disconnect, you probably want it on all the time. But you create whatever type of custom schedule you want. Then once you do that, you'll select the source. Very simple. This is what where are these triggers coming from, these notifications? These can be devices. These can be your actual device groups, which is what we talked about, or it could be an entire site, right? If I want to receive health notifications on a set of devices, every time a device disconnects, I can just do this by the site, right? I want to know any devices from that site to disconnect. So I'll select, we'll do device group. I'll grab device group in there. I can select those actual events. We do have a list of events I'll show you here on the web page here in a second. But a lot of different things. These are all of those different events we talked about, everything from motion to access object analytics, which is going to be the vehicles, the people. You have access control events in here, and then also those proactive health monitoring events, RAM overutilization, CPU overutilization, tampering events in here, such as casing opened. Then you have things like loitering guard, the PIR, perimeter defender. So there's a lot of different things in here, shock detection, storage disruption. And these range right from security events to health events to access control. So we'll just select, we'll do RAM overutilization, and then who's receiving them. Those can go to individuals of the platform. It could be a mobile push notification or to an email address. We have organization emails, which could be an organization-wide email. The webhooks, which is what you would utilize for actually pulling this in and aggregating it into for an integrator's ticketing system or something like that. But it also can be utilized for Slack or any type of other communication system, third-party communication system. You can pull in and basically communicate with that. And then lastly is the central stations, which is this one right here at the bottom. If I want to fire this off to a central station, that's how I would just put them there as the recipient. Won't dive into the rest of these. This is really just barrier communication down here at the bottom around access control. So what devices, what rules, what identities, things like that. And so we do have a webinar we just did about 2 months ago that covered more access control. And we do have some videos of that on our website. So for time constraints, just know that that is out there as something to take advantage of, is the other webinars that we have done in the past. So with that, I want to jump in and show, with about 5, 6, 7 minutes left, a couple of the important resources that are out there. Our web page, this is one of the first resources that I dropped into the web chat, is all of our resources on our website. This is going to cover everything from just getting started. You have some administrative things such as user scopes and permissions. That is important. Basic architecture, features, anything you can possibly think of. Chances are this is where we're housing the resources of those things. As part of that, though, under the notification section, we do have an event catalog. And I was talking earlier about all these different events that the devices can trigger. Here is a list of those. You've got security events. You have your access control events. Here's the health events, such as those proactive ones we're talking about. And it's important because with the proactive ones, you do have, or really with any of the health ones, you do have some remediation steps that we have added in here. So things like check the power, the connectivity of the device for device disconnect. So do try to help you a little bit with proactively providing those steps to take to remediate the actual notification. And then next is the YourSix status page. Highly recommend you all go in to this page, hit subscribe to updates, put in your information. You can get email, phone, you can pull it into other types of systems as well. But this will allow you to know how the system's doing. Is there any uptime? Any downtime? Is there any maintenance we're providing on the system currently? You can expand this and actually see more information here. It's kind of great right now when I demo it, right? It's 100% uptime, which is pretty normal for us, right? We have very, very few incidents that do occur. And with this, subscribe to it, get notified, and you'll actually be able to come in here and see of any incidents that do take place that would affect the actual system itself. The GitHub solution, as well, as far as what we provide from a code-based standpoint. This is just github.com/YourSix Inc. And you'll see here under the pinned ones at the top is example around health monitoring. And this does give you everything you would need to do to kind of set up a health monitoring webhook and the data flow, what this looks like for actually a deployment standpoint. All right. Last two. One is the YourSix YouTube page. I provide all the videos here. Looking at about 116 videos currently. Highly highly recommend this as a place to start. If you're currently using the platform, you need to figure out how to do something. This is a great place to go. Very, very easy, 2 to 3 minute videos in some cases, but also some just good overview videos. And then lastly is the YourSix Academy. So we do provide a certification track for our integrators. There are actual end user customer trainings available as well. But we do provide 3 integrator level certifications: professional, sales, and technical. You can see those right here. With those, you get signed up by connecting with either me or your account manager. Once you get signed up for them, you will be able to access those through the YourSix Academy here, and you'll just go through them, right? They're videos with evaluations that go with them. They range from about 1 hour to about 3.5 hours, depending on which course you do get enrolled in. Um, and they're all virtual, all self-paced. We do have in here some free courses available as well. So some like end user administrative basics, platform basics, and configuration basics. These are ones that anybody can come and log into. The last link that's provided currently in the chat is this link right here. So feel free to either sign up yourself to get enrolled in the free courses, or reach out to me or your channel manager to get enrolled in any of the other types of courses that actually require a enrollment. All right. Now, jumping over real quick, briefly going to talk about licensing and subscriptions. The important thing here is you get a base license per device. That's the way this works. If I have a camera, I need one base license. If I have a speaker, I need a base license. Obviously, there's different pricing and different SKUs for each of these, but the gist of it is pretty much everything I've shown you is included in the base license. Everything from the analytics to the edge storage, the health monitoring, the proactive health monitoring, the device groups. We don't charge any additional for any of those things, right? Comes with firmware updates, all of that in your base license. The only options are, do you want cloud storage, and how much cloud storage do you want? We range all the way up to about 365 days of cloud storage. Just depends on how long you want to store that footage for. And then you have options as to purchasing the subscriptions, whether that's 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, different options available to you. All right, so with that, wrapping up, if you have any questions, please drop them into the chat. I will be looking at that for a minute here, but this is kind of a summary of what we've gone through. Again, those same links that I've put on the third or fourth slide, here it is at the very end. My contact information up there at the top. Those resources down through there on the left side or on the right side. But in the end, we are a direct to cloud physical security system. All right. We do it different than a lot of the other systems out there do it. We do it the right way. Quite frankly, we don't try to build off of old code and somehow patchwork together what's a cloud solution. It does include access control now, and really take advantage of these resources. Take advantage of the proactive health monitoring, the proactive approach to security. Check out the resources and then become certified, right? Those are becoming certified will allow you to become much more trusted to your customers, as well as just you feel confident in the solution you're providing. So with that being said, right up against time, greatly appreciate everybody's time and ability to sit on here for an hour and listen to me chat. So this is going to be recorded. I will provide this on the YouTube page as well. But reach out to us. I'll sit back, look in the chat to see if any questions do come up. Feel free to drop them in there and I can answer any questions that do come in.